My sister-in-law, Vivian, was a staunch advocate of being child-free. When she saw others having hysterectomies, she became incredibly eager to have her own uterus removed. She said it would spare her from menstrual pain. But as a gynecologist, I deeply understood the uterus's importance. I pleaded with her, trying every argument I could. She hesitated for a long time, eventually giving up the idea. Yet a year later, the woman who adamantly refused to have children was unexpectedly pregnant. She blamed me entirely, and in a fit of rage, pushed me from the top floor of the hospital. My brother, Charles, desperate for the child they had struggled to conceive, concealed the real cause of my death, simply stating I'd slipped. Heaven must have eyes. I returned to the very day Vivian declared her intention to have a hysterectomy. I smiled. Of course, you must have it removed. I've decided I'm having my uterus removed. I've thought about this for a long time. No one should try to talk me out of it. Mom and Charles exchanged glances, a flicker of panic in their eyes. Mom forced a smile. Vivian, dear, this is still surgery on your body. Perhaps you should think it over carefully. Charles chimed in. Exactly. We're just worried about you, sis. Seeing their less than fierce opposition, Vivian relaxed a little. She pulled my hand. Lots of people have this surgery. If you don't believe me, ask Naomi. I was pulled unexpectedly, cold sweat breaking out all over my body. The excruciating pain of falling from the high floor, my bones shattered, seemed to still linger. I looked around, only then realizing I had truly returned to that day. Seeing my prolonged silence, Vivian impatiently shoved me. I'm talking to you, are you mute? It was then I snapped back to reality, an unconscious smile spreading across my face. Of course, you must have it removed. Vivian didn't notice my inconsistent and unusual behavior, simply assuming I agreed with her, her face filled with triumph. Mom frowned again. Naomi, this is a woman's most important organ. How can you be so careless? Vivian made the decision, yet I was the one getting scolded. But I had long grown used to this favoritism. It was the same now. Mom, when Vivian first married into this family, what did you say? To respect all her choices. Now she just wants to remove her uterus and you're protesting so vehemently. Do you two still want her to have children? Have children. Vivian exploded as soon as she heard it. Charles, what did I tell you before we got married? Are you trying to trick me now? Vivian was a true dink, dual income, no kids advocate. Before the wedding, Charles had agreed with her, but behind her back, he and Mom conspired to puncture condoms. Their plan was meticulous, but they never expected Vivian to pull a trick like this, removing the firewood from under the cauldron, so to speak. Mom quickly tried to appease her. Oh dear, no, Naomi, why are you speaking like that? Look, your sister-in-law is angry. Mom glared at me. Aren't you going to apologize quickly? I knew better than to argue, turning and bowing my head. Vivian, I'm sorry I misspoke, but I was just thinking of you. My words, clearly in Vivian's defense, meant she wouldn't give me a hard time. She tossed her hair. It's not your business. Anyway, I'm definitely having this uterus removed. I'm not having children, so a uterus is just a burden and I get menstrual pain every month. Get rid of it, it's done. I'm just letting you all know, I'll schedule the surgery in a few days. After Vivian left, Mom paced anxiously behind me, then swung her hand and hit me. You heartless wretch. If your sister-in-law gets her uterus removed, how will she have children later? Our Charles family bloodline will be ruined by your unfilial daughter. Mom smacked her thigh, on the verge of tears. I immediately opened my phone and sent a voice message. Vivian, please come back. Mom still won't let you have the surgery. Mom fearfully snatched my phone to recall the message. You little brat, are you crazy today? I calmly retrieved my phone, preparing to return to the hospital. Mom, if you two want to play the villains, don't drag me into it. It wasn't until I returned to work that I truly felt alive again. In my previous life, my kindness had become a tool for Mom and Charles to exploit. They told me to persuade Vivian, and with the conscience of a doctor, I helped her avoid a wrong path, even using my medical knowledge to cure her menstrual pain. I played the villain, they played the kind ones, and in the end, I died tragically at the hospital, while they remained safe and sound. This time, I would sit back and watch them fight each other. Seeing that force wasn't working, Mom switched to a gentle approach for several days. The dining table was filled with all my favorite dishes. Mom dotingly put food on my plate. Naomi, dear, you're a gynecologist after all. This surgery is very damaging to the body. Please talk to your sister-in-law. I immediately put down my chopsticks, turning to leave. A few words won't cost you anything. Are you so disobedient that you won't even listen to your own mother now?" I said nothing, remaining still without lifting my head. Charles also walked over. "Naomi, Mom is only doing this for your own good. When you have a grandson, won't you be missing out on a share of the red envelope money?" No sooner had he finished speaking than the room door burst open. Vivian stood aggressively in the doorway. "Grandson? What grandson?" I quickly ran and hid behind her, my voice choked with sobs. "Vivian, you're finally back. When you weren't home, they kept forcing me to talk you out of it. But I really want to respect your wishes. It's your body, you should be able to decide." I sobbed, my eyes red and swollen, looking as if I had suffered the utmost injustice. Mom and Charles were speechless, their mouths agape. They had never seen me like this. Vivian's expression softened. "I know you're good to me, Naomi. I appreciate your heart." She lifted her head and snapped. "Charles, I truly misjudged you. Let me tell you straight today, if you want children, then divorce me and I'll take all my dowry. Otherwise, I'm getting my uterus removed and you two better not say another word." Charles's face turned ashen, as if he'd swallowed a fly. Divorce was out of the question. Before marriage, he had accumulated a huge debt, only confessing it to Vivian after they were wed. Her entire dowry had gone to paying off that debt, and a portion still remained unpaid. Now, he didn't have a penny to his name. Charles forced a smile. "Vivian, what are you saying? How could I divorce you?" "Then stop forcing Naomi to talk me out of it. I've made up my mind." With that, Vivian pulled me away. "Come on, I'm taking you out to eat." Vivian and I went to a restaurant. She sat down, handed me the menu, and sighed. "What's wrong, Vivian?" I asked gently. She lifted her head, her eyes brimming with tears. "Naomi, in this whole family, you're the only one who truly understands me." I quickly took her hand. "Vivian, I just feel so indignant on your behalf. The economic pressure is so immense now, we can't even afford to raise children. You're thinking about the good of this family, too." Vivian nodded repeatedly, choked up and unable to speak. I pressed my advantage. "Furthermore, our bodies as women should be ours to control. We are not reproductive tools. Vivian, you should bravely follow your own path. I will always support you." Vivian nodded continuously, deeply moved. "Yes, we are allies. No one can hurt us." My siding with Vivian had a remarkably clear effect. She now regarded me as family, while I merely wanted to see how far she would go, unchecked by my intervention. However, a hysterectomy wasn't as simple as she thought. Vivian's body was very healthy, and many hospitals had refused her request. I accompanied her to several places, but there was no progress. Just as Vivian was feeling frustrated and preparing to go home, an elderly woman called out to us. "Girls, are you two looking for a uterus transplant?" Vivian, weary and without an ounce of energy, replied, "I want to have my uterus removed, but the hospitals won't perform the surgery. It's so frustrating." The woman was astonished. "Oh my, why would a young lady want to remove her uterus? Are you sick?" "No, I'm child-free. A uterus is useless to me." The aunt's eyes darted around, then she happily linked arms with Vivian. "Aunt Lydia here will take care of this for you, and when it's done, you'll even get money. How about that?" Vivian was a little wary. "How can there be such a good deal?" The aunt slapped her thigh. "You don't need a uterus, but plenty of people do. To be frank with you, with your healthy body, a uterus is worth at least this much." 30 million? I interjected. "How can that be?" 300 million, the aunt scoffed, stating the price. Vivian was clearly tempted. When she got home, she brought up the matter. Charles's eyes lit up when he heard it, and he jumped to his feet. 300 million? Vivian nodded absent-mindedly. Charles and Mom exchanged looks, their eyes filled with astonishment. 300 million was enough to pay off all the family's debts with a substantial amount left over. This was money from the sky. I bet they would definitely agree. I was absolutely right. The whole family, joyful and excited, accompanied Vivian to meet the aunt. The aunt led them to a hospital room. The woman inside had a damaged uterus, unable to bear children, and had long been seeking to buy a uterus at a high price. Vivian's appearance was a godsend. But Charles raised a question. "Vivian, I think this hospital has had a few deaths before." "What?" Vivian gasped. I quickly stepped forward. "Vivian, I already checked. This hospital previously handled a car accident case. The person brought to the hospital was already deceased. Their family refused to let go, wanting to extort money, which is why they blew the incident out of proportion." Vivian breathed a sigh of relief. "Naomi said it's fine, so don't worry too much." Charles looked at me suspiciously. "Since when did you and Vivian become so close?" Vivian snorted, hugging me. What do you know? This is a female bond. I wasn't actually lying. This hospital genuinely had been targeted for a scam, but whether a private hospital was trustworthy or not would simply depend on her luck. Both parties were very happy with the transaction. To prepare for the surgery, Vivian started jogging every morning, dragging me along. I gladly agreed to her request, observing her situation. "Good morning, Ms. Wang. Are you out for a run too?" I greeted our neighbor, Ms. Wang, who was approaching. Looking closely, I was startled. Ms. Wang, who usually took the most care of herself, now had a sallow complexion and a face full of wrinkles. Vivian was also a bit surprised. "Ms. Wang, what happened to you?" Ms. Wang sighed. "Uterine fibroids. Had to have it removed, and the recovery wasn't good. My condition has only gotten worse. Now my husband and children all call me an old hag with a yellow face." Ms. Wang burst into tears. She used to be the most beauty-conscious person, and now she was barely over 40. I looked at her slightly swollen body, my heart a mix of emotions. But compared to this, I was more concerned about Vivian's reaction. I subtly glanced at her. She was comforting Ms. Wang but also showed signs of worry on her face. My heart skipped a beat, filled with extreme tension. That evening, Vivian sat next to me, twisting the hem of her shirt, her brows tightly furrowed. I waited silently. "You saw Ms. Wang's situation today, right, Naomi? She had her uterus removed, and it had such a huge impact. Will everyone be like that?" She looked at me eagerly, her eyes full of anxiety. "This situation?" I hesitated for a moment, feeling Vivian's hand gripping mine tightly. Ms. Wang was already ill beforehand, and her vital energy was too depleted. She couldn't recover immediately. Moreover, she stopped working now and just stays home all day. You know her husband's temperament, right? After having children, he completely disregarded Ms. Wang. Vivian snorted coldly. "I told you, what good comes from raising a pack of ungrateful wolves?" I continued, "Postoperative complications are unpredictable. Vivian, if you're really worried, I'll go with you to cancel the surgery." Perhaps the shock from Ms. Wang's situation was too great. Vivian thought for a long time, finally saying, "I'm not doing it anymore. Naomi, come with me to cancel the surgery." My heart sank to the bottom. Ms. Wang's appearance was something I hadn't expected. She had messed up all my plans. It seemed the time for this family to face their karma would have to be delayed a little longer. I watched Vivian contact the aunt. They arranged to meet at the hospital, and I accompanied her to wait in the main lobby. Vivian remained silent when suddenly a commotion drew our attention. An elderly woman sat on the ground crying. "Heartless hospital, you killed my daughter. I want you to pay with your lives." The young nurse beside her was awkwardly speechless. I looked at Vivian. She stood up and pulled me to watch. The nurse was almost in tears. "Ma'am, how can you say such a thing?" The old woman on the ground wailed. "It's your responsibility. Now you want to kill this old woman too?" The nurse blurted out. "Your daughter had cervical cancer and refused to have a hysterectomy, insisting on conservative treatment. Our hospital signed an agreement stating you would bear the responsibility. Now the cancer cells have metastasized and she's dead, so how can you blame us?" Vivian and I exchanged glances. I went to ask an auntie who was watching the commotion nearby. "Hello, auntie, what's going on?" As soon as she saw someone engage her, the auntie eagerly exclaimed, "What karma? This family's daughter had cervical cancer, and the hospital said she needed a hysterectomy, but the family wouldn't allow it. They said a woman isn't a woman without a uterus and insisted on keeping it. Now look what happened. The uterus is still there, but a life is lost. Don't you think that's karma? Heaven helps those who help themselves." I looked at Vivian, who asked in astonishment, "To keep a uterus and lose a life? What kind of logic is that?" "Exactly," the auntie scoffed. "What's so good about a uterus that you have to keep it? I had mine removed and I haven't seen any ill effects." "You had your uterus removed too?" Vivian was immediately interested. "Yes, just like that girl's family. But I had mine removed right away and I'm fine now." The auntie was very frank. Vivian looked her up and down. The auntie's complexion was indeed radiant, impossible to hide. Just then, hospital security came and escorted the disruptive woman away, and the aunt we were waiting for also arrived late. "Girl, why suddenly aren't you going through with it?" She grabbed Vivian's hand. Vivian hesitated for a moment, then finally decided. "Auntie, I'll still do it. Before, I was just muddled and scared." The aunt continuously patted her chest. "Oh my, don't scare this old woman. Doing it is good, doing it is good." Vivian contentedly began planning her wonderful life afterward. As we left the hospital, I turned my head to see the aunt smiling and waving at me. I really had to thank her for her excellent acting. A month flew by, and finally the day of the surgery arrived. The whole family nervously gathered around the operating room door. The family receiving the uterus was also there. The red light turned green and a nurse stepped out. Charles rushed over. "Nurse, how is my wife?" I stood beside him, scornfully thinking anyone who didn't know would think she was giving birth. He only cared about the 300 million he was about to receive. The nurse nodded. The surgery was very successful. The anesthesia hasn't completely worn off yet. She needs good rest. Vivian was wheeled out, followed immediately by the other family's surgery. When Vivian woke up, that family's surgery was also complete and very successful. To show their gratitude, they gave Vivian an additional sum of money. With money falling from the sky, Charles and Mom were so overjoyed their eyes practically narrowed into slits. The recipient recovered very well, quickly able to get out of bed and walk around. That day, they personally came to Vivian's hospital room to thank her, saying they wanted to invite my whole family to dinner to show their gratitude. Charles and Mom, of course, went, but Vivian's immunity was weak. She had spiked a fever twice after surgery and couldn't easily get out of bed. As for me, I claimed I had a busy shift, so Vivian was left to lie alone in her hospital bed. "Naomi, where did they go to eat? Aren't they back yet?" I looked at Vivian's message, smiling. "I don't know, Vivian. They should be back soon, just hold on a little longer. It's all my fault for having to work and not being able to take care of you. Vivian, are you okay now?" Vivian didn't reply. I contentedly put my phone away. A long, drawn-out night, recovering alone in the hospital, while her husband was having dinner with another woman. Vivian would absolutely not be able to tolerate that. Sure enough, Charles stayed out all night, completely drunk. Vivian and he had a huge argument. Charles didn't want to make a big deal of it, so to pacify her, he gave Vivian all the post-surgery thank you money. That was the end of that new incident. Charles only took a few days off. By the third day after the surgery, he was back at work. My mother, having received her share of the money, also treated Vivian perfunctorily. Only I cared for her wholeheartedly. Every time I saw the surgical scar on her abdomen, my mood became incredibly light. Don't think it's over yet. The real drama was still waiting for her. For some unknown reason, Vivian's recovery was very slow. Occasionally, she would still discharge bloody fluid. The doctor said it was normal. I covered Vivian with the blanket. "Vivian, you're in the recovery phase. Don't get too agitated about Charles. He didn't mean it." Hearing about Charles, Vivian grew even angrier. "He's infuriating me to death. Both he and his mother are worthless." Then she looked at me, her eyes brimming with tears. "Naomi, you're still the best to me. I feel like I've seen through them all. Charles is useless when it really matters." I comforted her. "As women, I understand." "Understand what, Vivian? The real show is about to begin." My phone rang. I saw it was Charles, then looked at Vivian with a feigned, awkward expression before getting up and going out of the hospital room to answer the call. Charles refused to contact Vivian directly, only calling me to inform me. "I won't be visiting Vivian tonight. Can you bring her dinner?" I stood by the door frame, leaving a slight gap to ensure the sound could carry inside. "But you haven't visited her for 2 days. Are you really not coming to take care of Vivian?" I put him on speaker. Charles's impatient voice came through. "I said I'm busy. She won't die on her own. Why worry?" He hung up. I stood at the door for a moment before entering, and sure enough, Vivian's face was grim. I said, "Vivian, Charles said he's working overtime tonight. He'll order takeout for you later." "Stop covering for him," Vivian interrupted, bowing her head. "I heard everything." "What?" I looked worriedly at my phone, then at the door, perfectly feigning awkwardness and stammering. Vivian sighed. "Never mind, I don't want to drag this out anymore." I took the opportunity to sit on the edge of her bed. "Vivian, don't be too angry. Charles and that assistant are just colleagues, it's just work contact." "Which assistant?" Vivian sharply caught the keyword. "His new graduate assistant, that girl." Vivian gnashed her teeth. I was startled by Vivian, then suddenly, as if remembering something, covered my mouth. "Vivian, you didn't know?" Vivian clenched her fists tightly. "If I hadn't told you, perhaps you would never have known your entire life." I pretended to be on the verge of tears. "I'm so sorry, Vivian, I didn't mean to. I thought Mom had told you already." "Mom also knows." Vivian's eyebrow twitched. "Yes, Mom, she..." I stopped abruptly halfway through, looking worriedly at Vivian. Vivian gave a cold laugh. "All right, I don't blame you. Excellent. Both of them, mother and son, hid it from me. They both hid it from me. Vivian, clutching her abdomen, dragged her ailing body all the way to Charles's company. Most of the employees there recognized her, so no one stopped her. Vivian went straight to Charles's office and pushed the door open forcefully. Immediately, less than innocent sounds emanated. Oh, role play in the office. Vivian stormed in and quickly heard a woman's gasp and Charles's angry shouts. I stood guard at the door, not wanting to stain my eyes, only listening to the commotion inside. I saw a horrified employee open the door, then a trembling assistant, my naked brother, and Vivian bleeding profusely appeared before me. I shrieked, rushing to Vivian's side, tears welling up as I looked at Charles. Brother, I don't know why Vivian suddenly ran out. I really couldn't stop her. Charles was also frightened by the pool of blood beneath Vivian. At this moment, he no longer noticed my presence, trembling as he pointed at me. Quick, call an ambulance. Outside the office, a large crowd had gathered to watch. I looked at the assistant cowering in Charles's arms. Charles yelled at the employees outside. What are you staring at? Get back to work, a pair of adulterous wretches. Vivian was rushed to the hospital. The doctor said that due to her post-operative incision not being fully healed and her strenuous activity, the wound had torn, requiring a second surgery to stitch it up. Fortunately, this hospital was quite responsible, and their suturing technique was much better. Vivian once again lay in a hospital bed, Charles kneeling beside her, incessantly expressing regret. Wife, I was just momentarily possessed by a devil. She seduced me because she wanted a promotion and a raise. Vivian scoffed. Charles, how important of an official are you that people need to sacrifice themselves for you? Charles's face almost crumpled under Vivian's words, but then he straightened his back. Wife, I'm about to get a promotion. When that happens, my salary and status won't be like this anymore. Just look at the future development of our family. I promise you, there will absolutely be no such thing again, so please forgive me this one time. At the mention of a promotion, Vivian's sharp gaze softened. She was silent for a moment, then said, Fine. Charles, if there's a next time, I will definitely make your life hell. Charles quickly stood up, ignoring his aching knees, grasped Vivian's hand, and kept promising. Thank you, wife. I definitely won't do such a despicable thing again. I knocked on the door, carrying the patient's meal in. Charles immediately stood up. Naomi, take good care of your sister-in-law. I have things to do, so I'll be going. I tilted my head to look at Vivian, who nodded. Go ahead, having Naomi here is enough. I spoon-fed Vivian, while in my mind the image of the young assistant secretly listening outside the door reappeared. A dog can't change its habit of eating feces. Given Charles's character, he would certainly relapse. This time, Vivian recovered very quickly and could walk normally again. Free from menstrual pain, she boasted to everyone she met about having her uterus removed and no longer enduring the suffering of childbirth. Others politely congratulated her, but the relatives in the family were different. Our eldest aunt, legs crossed, chewing sunflower seeds, spit flying everywhere, said, Vivian, a woman still needs children to rely on, otherwise who will take care of her in old age? Vivian, perhaps having watched too many short videos, retorted, I'll spend the money I would have used to raise children on myself, so I won't end up like you, old and wrinkled. I'll live much longer than you. The aunt angrily slammed the table. A woman without a uterus isn't a woman anymore. A defective body, who knows how many illnesses it will cause later? What good is a woman if she can't bear children? If you can't hold a man's heart, there's only one outcome. After saying that, the aunt even turned to lecture my mother. What good is a mother-in-law like you? Being bullied by your daughter-in-law, ridden roughshod over? My mother pretended to mediate. Children and grandchildren have their own fortunes. Charles didn't dare utter a word but was still targeted by the aunt. She sat next to him. Charles, your wife can't have children anymore anyway. Your cousin's son is only 6 months old. Let him come to our Charles family. It'll be like having an heir. Vivian couldn't listen anymore. She choked up. Enough. Charles, I'm still young, and I had to pay off your debts with my uterus, and now you treat me like this. And you old hag who doesn't know when to die, you want your grandchild to inherit my family's assets? I spit on that. The aunt's face turned dark and she left. My mother, fearing trouble, slipped out the door. Charles and Vivian locked themselves in their room. I don't know what they said to each other, but they made up as usual. Life continued, Charles was promoted and got a raise, and their life became increasingly comfortable. Suddenly, Vivian grabbed my hand and vomited her entire lunch onto the floor. I helped her to the sofa and brought her a cup of hot water. Vivian, what's wrong? Her lips were pale. She took a sip of water to quench her thirst. I don't know, Naomi. These past few days, I've just been nauseous and haven't been able to eat. Could it be a complication? I hesitated before speaking. Vivian, the symptoms you're describing don't sound like complications. They sound more like... Vivian's eyes widened. No way, I had my uterus removed. I can't be pregnant. I shook my head. It's hard to say. We should still go to the hospital for a checkup. The doctor handed me the results. It's been 2 months. How are you only discovering this now? Vivian sat stunned to one side, muttering, impossible, impossible. I clearly had surgery. The doctor pushed up his glasses. The uterus was removed, but one ovary and fallopian tube were retained. Have you been having unprotected intercourse recently? I asked worriedly. So, what should we do now, doctor? The doctor shook his head. Without a uterus, the fetus is an ectopic pregnancy in the fallopian tube. We need to schedule surgery as soon as possible, or the mother's life will be in danger. Yes, we'll go home and discuss it right away. Back home, Charles ran out to greet us. What were the test results? His answer was a resounding slap from Vivian. Charles, you heartless beast. Charles, hit without reason, flared up in anger. He shoved Vivian. Are you sick? Why are you hitting me? Why am I hitting you? You deserve to be hit. You deserve to die. Vivian wildly attacked Charles. Enough, stop hitting him. I stepped in to intervene. Vivian is pregnant. Pregnant with what? What nonsense? She is. Charles's actions abruptly stopped. Wasn't her uterus removed? How can she still be pregnant? Don't you two team up and lie to me. Vivian squatted in the corner, sobbing uncontrollably. I had no choice but to relay the doctor's words. My mother was also stunned when she heard. How can that be? Vivian, tears streaming down her face, pointed at Charles. It's all Charles's fault for not wearing a condom. Charles was also annoyed. You clearly seduced me. You bought those clothes and you threw away the condoms. How is it my responsibility now? Seeing the situation spiraling out of control, I quickly took charge. Arguing now is useless. We should get her admitted to the hospital first. Vivian chose minimally invasive surgery. Charles, in a huff, left and stayed at the company for several days. Today, as usual, I brought Vivian her meal. I pushed the door open, but she was nowhere to be seen. Without panicking, I asked the nurse at the station. The nurse said the patient in bed 19 had gone out early this morning. I already had a plan in mind. I opened my phone and found a young woman who worked at Charles's company. Any news today? The girl replied very quickly. Naomi, your sister-in-law came to the company to cause trouble again. Everyone's watching right now. As soon as your sister-in-law arrived, she started yelling, then threw something bloody at the manager's face. That scene, tusk. I knew it. Ever since Vivian asked the doctor to retrieve the removed embryo, I had anticipated this day. But to throw it directly in his face, tusk, this couple truly matched each other's intensity. I tapped a few fingers and sent a red envelope. Got it, you've worked hard. The girl received the red envelope and sent a sticker. Next time there's fun like this, find me again? The girl said Charles and Vivian had a huge fight and the office was completely trashed. From then on, the two grew apart. Charles came home less and less, always citing work as an excuse. But I looked at the photos on my phone, Charles and the young assistant, embracing, their affection deep and meaningful. I truly hope that all lovers in this world will eventually find their way to each other. I smiled and posted on a secondary account. Such a happy couple, may all lovers in this world eventually find their way to each other. The post, shared within the same city, was quickly seen by Vivian. She tremblingly called me over. Naomi, does this look like your brother? I leaned in to look. Oh, it really is my brother. It's even on the homepage. Then my gaze shifted. Who is the person next to him? Vivian clenched her fists tightly. Who else could it be? I knew it. I knew his habit of a dog can't change its ways. Just then, Vivian's phone chimed with a message. I leaned in to see. Tonight 8:00, same place. It was a screenshot of a chat. The other party's avatar was Charles. Same place? Vivian was a little suspicious. I softly said, Vivian, a few days ago, I accidentally saw my brother at the Nam Hong Hotel, but I was afraid of a misunderstanding, so I didn't dare tell you. Just then, my phone also received a message from Charles. I'm working overtime tonight, won't be home. You and Mom go eat, don't wait for me. Excellent, I thought. Charles is working overtime all the way at a hotel. Vivian was so angry that her fingernails dug into her palms until they bled. If he likes to lose face online, I'll make him internet famous. Vivian called a blogger friend who had some influence. The group of women, equipped with live streaming gear, staked out the hotel entrance. Finally, Charles's figure appeared in the camera. He had his arm around the young assistant's waist, laughing and talking as they walked towards the hotel entrance. "Charles, you beast, how dare you cheat?" Vivian shrieked and charged forward. I leisurely watched the live stream from home. The live stream's popularity was incredibly high. In just a few minutes, there were 50,000 viewers. Vivian tore the assistant's clothes, and Charles's face was scratched. They covered their faces, trying to avoid the camera. The blogger friend enthusiastically asked, "Excuse me, is this your mistress? Why are you cheating? Do all men like to have a red flag flying at home and colorful flags fluttering outside?" That night, this live stream room climbed to the top of the rankings. Many related keywords also trended on Hot Search. I very patiently bought more boosts for several videos. I hope they fully enjoy tonight. The online popularity was immense, and many people followed the clues to Charles's company. To minimize the impact, the company ordered Charles's dismissal. "Well, now I'm fired. Are you satisfied?" Charles roared, their house also trashed by them. Vivian's face was wild. "How could that be enough? I want you to go to hell, and it still wouldn't be enough to quell the hatred in my heart." "Charles, you are the one who wronged me." Charles, covering his injured face, threw a stack of documents onto the table. "Things have come to this point. I don't want to waste any more words with you. Let's divorce." Vivian stared blankly at the divorce papers, then suddenly looked up. "Divorce? You want to divorce me?" Charles snorted coldly. "Vivian, look at yourself now. What do you even look like? Let me tell you, Celeste is pregnant, and it's my child, much better than you barren woman who couldn't even lay an egg who knows how many times. Celeste is that young assistant, so you can see for yourself. Anyway, I can't live with a crazy woman anymore." Charles left, leaving Vivian alone, holding the divorce papers, sitting in a daze. "Pregnant? I was pregnant once too. Charles, I was also pregnant with your child." I walked over to her side. "Vivian, don't be too heartbroken." Vivian suddenly grabbed my hand, squeezing it tightly. "Naomi, my uterus. It's all because of my uterus. It's because of my uterus that all these misfortunes happened. I must get my uterus back. Yes, get my uterus back, and everything will be all right again." I watched her leave the house coldly. She actually went to find that family. Now, that woman was pregnant, and the whole family was living happily. Vivian looked like a beggar, her clothes disheveled, clinging to their front gate. "You used my uterus. Give me back my uterus. That's my child." Of course, this was impossible. Vivian was thrown out onto the street, crying and wailing alone. I stood not far away, watching Vivian lying sprawled on the ground, exactly like my pathetic state when I was pushed downstairs, only she was still alive. I watched Vivian walk, smiling through tears. I followed her back to the front of their house, seeing bright lights through the window. Charles had brought Celeste home. They were probably having a joyful dinner right now. I saw Vivian carrying a can of gasoline upstairs. I sat on the long street not far from the house, watching the flames erupt from the window, engulfing the entire home. Everything was finally over. The next day, someone called me to the hospital. The doctor told me, "My condolences." An unexpected fire had broken out last night, and both Charles and Vivian were burned to death. I heard that Charles had a chance to escape, but Vivian held him back tightly, dragging him to die with her. The floor was covered with bloody scratch marks from Charles's struggle. Because I had messaged Celeste beforehand, she luckily escaped. The first thing she did after escaping was to get an abortion. She knelt before me, weeping and thanking me. This was indeed what needed to be done. Charles had been harassing Celeste at work for more than just a day or two. It was I who sought her out. We had reached a cooperation agreement. That chat log was also sent by her to Vivian. Now, she could finally escape this nightmare. I genuinely felt happy for her. When the police came to my mother's hospital room for investigation, I stepped forward. I stated that the old house was ancient, it was an accident, and we would not pursue the matter further. The deceased are paramount. I only wished for Charles and Vivian to rest in peace. My mother's throat was damaged by smoke. She suffered 80% burns over her entire body, and her legs were broken by a fallen bookshelf. She would be bedridden for the rest of her life. This woman, outwardly, hadn't done anything overtly cruel, yet she made me hate her to my core. In my previous life, my sister-in-law pushed me downstairs, leaving me a bloody, mangled mess. My spirit watched them put me into the crematorium, not even granting me a proper burial. My mother had also told the police the same thing. My daughter slipped and fell, Please don't say anything more. I'm old and can't bear this torment. Please let my daughter rest in peace." I hated how, from childhood, I was always just a backup plan. But now her son and daughter-in-law were both dead. The only person she could rely on was me. I rented a small house for my mother and hired a caretaker. My father died early, my brother and sister-in-law perished in the fire, and my mother was burned and crippled. I became well known at the hospital. The management felt great sympathy for my situation, even granting me a special comfort allowance. I looked at the photo of myself receiving the allowance on the newspaper's front page, then turned and showed it to my mother. "Look, Mom, this is the money your 3 lives bought for me."